What is up, y'all? We are back with another great guest, a good friend of mine, planted question mark, the iconic comment, Nate Venarske, a man that wears many hats. Have a tremendous respect for this guy, Nate. Thank you so much. And of course, we got Joel with us too. Joel, Joel Gullidge, the man. Yeah. Nate, thank you so much for coming on, dude. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing all right.
Right on. Um, and I think we may audio's good. Can you hear us? Joel? I can hear you okay. Nate, or can you hear me okay?
Yes,
We're all good.
systems go.
Right on. Well, Nate, like I said, a man of many hats. I just want to speak highly of you for a minute, if you don't mind doing that. Nate had a pretty large impact on me, and I think Joel, you as well, especially through iNaturalist, when I was learning how to use the app and really what it meant. Nate's transformative comment that you've probably, if you're active on iNaturalist, you may have gotten this comment, planted question mark. And I was like, who is this native guy? And why does he keep asking what does it matter if something's planted? And it totally changed my trajectory. Not only does Nate has 365,380 iNaturalist identifications. He's got a massive number of observations, annotations, a curator, very active on Mississippi Native Plant Society group, Mississippi Native Plant Society, a great writer, knows a ton about spiders, and is developing a really cool invention that I'm hoping we can talk about later. So again, Nate, thanks so much for talking with us this evening, man.
The kind I could say the same about y'all. Y'all have a great set of talents in marketing native plants and in planting and designing gardens. And that's I'm really glad that y'all are sharing your skills and knowledge because it's I can see that it's impacting and helping a lot of people.
Thanks, Brett. I appreciate that. Um, Joel, anything to say on Nate? I know you've prepared an awesome slideshow.
Yeah, I would just echo what you said. Same deal. First learned of Nate through iNaturalist, and I was seeing a lot of his comments asking people if certain plants were either planted or cultivated. And through that, it taught me to think critically about what I was looking at and what I was looking for, and and why plants are where they are. And I would say not only that, but Nate's also, Harry, you've probably seen these too. Nate has built out these highly interactive maps for insects, for plants. And so, for example, if you go to Nate's iNat profile, you can find one of his interactive maps that he built out for Mississippi for based on ecoregion. So you can find plants based on ecoregion, and so I found that to be extremely helpful. And yeah, Nate's the man.
Dude, that's awesome. Nate, before we dive into the slideshow, I have a question. What sparked your interest in the natural world? Where did that begin? Did that begin at childhood, and how did that evolve over time?
It's actually a very cohesive story, and I'll just do a quick run through. So it started when I was in preschool and middle school, and that kind of time frame. I was homeschooled, and our science classes were that my mom would read aloud out of an encyclopedia, and then we'd go outside and look for things. And so that got me started early. Um, at that time, I thought I knew a lot, but I was reading mostly, general encyclopedias that were designed to be read by anyone in the world. And so I grew up with a lot of misconceptions in my own head. Like, for instance, I thought that velvet worms were in Mississippi and I'd be able to find them somewhere, someday, somehow, just under a log. So I'd flip logs often trying to look for velvet worms. If you're not familiar with them, they're only in like South America, and a few other places in the world, in very, very restricted ranges. Um, and so during that time, one of my classmates in our homeschool co-op was John Keyes. and we would we had I think we had a pretty good relationship. I remember one time he threw an acorn at me in class, so I dumped a bottle of water on his head, and we both got in trouble for it. Uh, but then we both started going to a high school that wasn't homeschool, and it had a very strong science program with ecology, zoology, that kind of stuff. And I started hanging out with John more in outdoor settings, and then he basically would take me out into the woods and make me recite Latin names, or else he'd leave me to die out there. And so that got me interested. Um, Still at that point in time, I was researching plants, and I would see this native plant. The closest it ranges to Mississippi is Missouri. Well, that's close enough. It's essentially a native plant. That was my thought process up until really probably up until I started gardening on my own, and that really changed my perspective when I would try to grow things that I previously thought, "No, that's close enough," and it wouldn't grow. But things that were actually locally correct collected would grow very well. And yeah, kind of evolved from there. Started a nursery and got a landscape horticultural license. Went to college in biosystems engineering, which was it was a kind of a mix between biomedical and environmental engineering. And so I got a good deal of experience. Like I got medical entomology, I got plant propagation, although that wasn't part of the curriculum, but that's something that I was able to squeeze in there. And all of that just kind of worked together to further my interest in getting people excited about nature.
Dude, that is incredible story. Thank you for that answer. That's awesome. And we know John too. Joel and I know Keys. I did not know that y'all have known each other for quite a while.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. That makes sense. Well, man, that is awesome. And out of the encyclopedia, I too had an old passed down set of encyclopedias. And I came from an era when I was a child where we would have to use the dial up internet. And sometimes it was easier for me to pull those encyclopedias down off of the bookshelf. And that's just a cool story. I even remember the smell of those books. Joel, did you have a set of those?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, man. Well, Nate, that's inspiring. That's so cool. You're a super intelligent guy, and I've learned a lot from you just in the short time that we've known each other. So that's
I've learned a lot from you too.
Do what?
I've learned a lot from you too. Like what is it? Heterostylus, what that actually means. Because I had a misconception about that for years. And
Yeah.
then you posted a video and cleared it up for me.
Well, Joel gets a lot of credit for that too, and Daniel Atha gets a lot of credit. And I'm telling you, this is going to be an iNaturalist heavy talk probably, because that has just opened up my entire world. I can't speak highly enough. It's open. I've gotten all these relationships out of it that I would have never gotten, and such a more of a deeper understanding of the natural world. So I mean, it's just incredible. I would not know you if it weren't for that, So, um, so that's awesome. Joel, do you want to, speaking of my naturalist, he put together a really cool slideshow of a lot of your really awesome observations. Joel, do you want to start diving into that?
Yeah, and before we do, Nate, real quick, I just had a question about your background. I know that you are a gardener yourself, and at times you've done, in addition to your nursery work, you've done landscape, whether it's work for other people or consulting for other people on appropriate plants. I'm just kind of curious about how you got into gardening, just sort of your thought process around gardening in general.
Well, so I helped my mom out with our gardens growing up. And I was kind of, in some sense, an anti-gardener in that when the squash borers came and devoured the squash, I was happy to see them because they were pretty. And those little scarlet colored wasps with the moths with the clear wings that look like wasps.
Mhm.
Um, so that kind of was where I got used to getting my hands dirty. And then I wanted to build a native habitat in our backyard on a spot that just nothing would grow. I didn't really communicate this part to my parents because I knew they wouldn't like it, but I was wanting to attract spiders. So I'm a big fan of spiders, and so I like to, when I'm doing a garden design, I like to try to think about how to get spiders to be there. And so there are certain species that I found, certain species of spider that I found like certain species of plant. Spiders are generally pretty generalists, but Lucaje, I might be saying that wrong. Orchard orb weavers, little silvery orb weavers with a little red dot on their bottom. Um, they really like Chasmanthium sicilliflorum and Chasmanthium laxum. And I noticed this when walking through my grandparents' property. I would walk through tons of those webs when I was walking through patches of those grasses. And so I've planted some of those in our yard, and I've got to say I'm quite happy with the amount of spiders that we have.
Love that.
Yeah, me too, dude. That's a way underutilized grass, just in general, especially the Sessiliflorum for.
Nobody's using that grass.
I know, man. I love that. I really do love that grass. And I did not know that it attracted those orbit. That's super cool.
It's not as much that it attracts them, it's that it provides a really good structure for them. And so with spider species, the key to having a bunch of different spider species, it's two things. The most important one, other than the land area that you have in consideration, because that's when you're looking at species diversity, the most important factor is how big of a part of land are you talking about? Because you could go to the most diverse place in the Florida Everglades and look at 1 square inch and find less diversity than you find in 3 miles of lawn, right? So the area matters. Moisture matters for spiders. The moister the spot is, the more spider diversity there will be. And then the structural diversity matters. So if you have a leaf litter with ground cover plants above that, and with plants that are intermediate in height, and then a bunch of different layers of plant heights until you get to trees, and you have dead trees, and you have fallen limbs, and you have some human structures too, you're going to really get a lot of spider diversity in those cases. And then after that, native plant diversity actually does impact spider diversity because it impacts insect diversity and abundance. And insects are what feed spiders. But it's comparatively small effect compared to moisture and structural complexity.
That's so interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. One moment. Make this. Okay, let's dive in. So I've kind of broken this up into a few different parts. Nate, you're super active with the Mississippi Native Plant Society. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, so I think I found out about the Native Plant Society through the Facebook group that Brady Dunaway started in 2018, I think. And that got me involved. I started going to meetings. Eventually, I volunteered to be the webmaster. And I have done my best to just, whenever everyone else, the Native Plant Illuminati, get together and decide when the next meeting is going to be, they give me the marching orders and I post on the website. It's not like a big deal. But I did reorganize the website, and I hope that it's going to be a more valuable resource for years to come, with lists of native plant nurseries and list of book resources that were already up there, but they were kind of hard to find. And so I tried to make them more front and center, the newsletters as well. So that, because like if you read through the newsletters, you're going to see all sorts of cool things about the Native Plant Society history. Like, did you know that Felder Rushing was the president for a number of years?
I didn't know that.
Yes, and you can read his articles in the newsletter from when he was the president, and all these other different people who were president who you may know, you may not know, but they still have interesting things to say.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
You have been involved in some research efforts around mosquito control and designing these specific types of traps. And I know for a while you were working on patents for these. Would you be willing to just kind of give us a brief overview into your mosquito control efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that this stems from my gardening efforts. So, something that I like to do whenever I set out to do something that I think is good, I like to stress test that idea and try to think of ways that it could go wrong. Just so that I make sure, because when you have an idea, you often have these rose-colored glasses, and it's a good idea to think about, well, what could go wrong. And one of the things that can go wrong with gardening with native plants, getting people to spend more time outside, is they're more exposed to mosquitoes. And so it could be a nuisance that could cause them to then go hire a spray company to come and spray it, and then now your pollinator haven has become a death trap. Or you could get West Nile virus. Your kid could get Eastern equinoencephalitis. These are horrible diseases. Um, and those two diseases that I just mentioned, the trap that I'm working on right now doesn't do anything against. I can explain more about that. This trap is specifically aimed at the invasive nuisance mosquitoes, such as Aedes albopictus. That's the most common one in Mississippi. And Aedes aegypti is the one that used to be in Mississippi. It caused yellow fever. Whole cities were wiped off the map. Memphis almost disappeared in the 1800s. You can go up and down the Mississippi River and find ghost towns where it's just mass graves, or not mass graves, but tons of tombstones where everyone died within a very short period of time. And Dr. Goddard from MSU Extension, he's been to these sites, and he says that one of the ironic things is on some of these tombstones, there are like vases, concrete vases to hold flowers that the mosquitoes that killed the people now live in. And so that's kind of the thing with these invasive mosquitoes. Unfortunately, these species don't spread disease right now in the US, but they've got the capability of spreading dengue, chikungunya, Zika, and they really like humans and human structures. And so if you want to trap them, you can trick them into laying their eggs in an environment that they like a plastic bucket, and then you can kill them. And the traditional way to do this is with pesticide, such as Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, or BTI, mosquito bits. Very safe, very effective. But actually my original trap design, you was using BTI. And that was the one that we pursued a patent on. We filed a provisional patent. I did about 70 customer interviews trying to figure out, okay, if we made this thing, would anyone buy it? And the answer was probably not, because it was too expensive. Because basically what I was doing was setting up a fish feeder on the bucket to repopulate the bucket with BTI when it ran out. Because studies have shown that people don't maintain the BTI. So I can't remember what state it was in, but they gave out these buckets of doom to everyone in the neighborhood. And they gave them all the supplies. And then at the end of a year, I think it was a 2-year study actually, they asked them how often they maintained their trap. And 60% of the people they gave these traps to did not maintain it often enough. Either never or only rarely or occasionally, when it needs to be maintained every 2 weeks to a month. And so those mosquito traps then become mosquito breeding grounds. So what was in my head was, how do I keep these mosquito traps from becoming mosquito breeding grounds while also keeping them safe? Because one thing you could do is just douse them with an insect growth regulator that lasts 360 days. And then any insect that gets in that water is going to die. But if it leaches out into the environment, it's going to cause more harmful effects than BTI would. I'm sorry, this is getting to be a little of a long-winded answer, but I was reading through the literature and I found that the first ova trap that was ever made actually used a very simple design of a container. The original ones, I think, used, so it depends on what you mean by original, I should say. So there were some in Asia that were used whose composition I can't find. In Houston, Texas, they made these using glass beer bottles that they cut in half, and then they got a foam float with a nylon gauze in the middle of it, and then they put it on top of in the glass bottle, and then filled it with water. And they put two of these out at every house in a neighborhood, and they had a controlled neighborhood, and it significantly reduced the numbers and range of the mosquitoes within the neighborhood. So people at the center of the neighborhood experienced significant protection to the point where they just didn't have as many mosquitoes, or they might not have had any mosquitoes in some cases. And this was a very simple trap design. The reason why the researchers didn't go forward with it is because the glass bottles broke too easily. Now you could fix that with a plastic bottle. And I think part of the reason, I think there are two reasons why this didn't take off. One is because at that time, there wasn't really an accessible way to manufacture plastic parts that had like a bucket shape with parallel edges. Because if you're injection molding, you often have to make these edges at a slant. And so the mesh disc would leave a gap as it floated up, or would get stuck halfway in the middle. And the other half of the problem is that if you build something like this out of plastic, it's going to last for a long time, and there's not going to be a recurring revenue. And so if you're a business, it makes a lot more sense to sell pesticide that has to be reapplied regularly, or to sell glue strips that have to be reapplied regularly. Those are the two existing competitors. Than to have a mesh like this that lasts ostensibly for as long as nylon does. Obviously, this has not been tested for 10 years to make sure it lasts for that long, but I hope it does. And I should explain the mechanism is basically when the mosquito eggs get in the water and hatch and mature into pupa, and then they try to emerge as adults, they get trapped by the mesh and die.
Wow.
And so you have, it's the way that I like to put it, that most people have advised me not to say it this way, but I think it's funny, is it's a mosquito daycare run by serial killers. Um, so that's kind of the premise is you're killing the mosquito babies. And the CDC tested traps like this that use BTI in Puerto Rico, and they concluded that they were similar in effectiveness to gene drives. So if you've heard about genetically modified mosquitoes, this sort of trap, if it's set out in a large enough density over a large enough area, usually somewhere between 8 and 12 traps per acre, and that depends on a bunch of different factors. I'd imagine in some cases there's no amount of traps like this that you can put out next to a tire dump yard that's going to reduce the number of mosquitoes. We'll just say it that way, because mosquitoes will just breed in the tires. A gene drive is when you, my favorite example is the sterile insect technique, where you irradiate male mosquitoes such that they can only produce male offspring, release them into the wild, they mate with all the females have babies that are all male, and that's the end of the population, because you can't have a sustainable population with all males. It doesn't work. And so this sort of trap is similar to in effectiveness to that sort of thing, but without the scary genetically modified mosquito part.
Man, that's incredible. And Nate, you've recently announced that you have these available for purchase. And so I would imagine that right now you are a mosquito trap building.
Well, right now my 3D printer is out of commission, unfortunately. I was trying to upgrade it to build so it could print faster, and it ended up breaking something, so I've got to fix it. But I have a number of traps already made that I'm preparing to send out to some of the people who ordered it earlier on. But hopefully I can get this 3D printer up and running with the upgrade, because previously to make 4 of these traps it took around 24 hours of print time. And when I put out that post, I was expecting maybe to get 3 orders or something like that, but I didn't. It was way more than that. And so I thought, oh man, I've got to upgrade my 3D printer right now. But that was a dumb decision. I should have just stuck with what I had and pumped those out slowly.
Yeah, well, now we're going to put this on YouTube. For anyone that's interested in these traps, please reach out to Nate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I never really thought about it in the terms of what you did. And I think it's cool that you're way more driven by wanting to help the world than by profit. And it's because you're absolutely right. If you're trying, like I'm thinking about my kids. If I bring my kids outside to help me pull Japanese stilt grass or to help me do something more fun. Like, hey, I just bought some plants from Camp Creek. Let's arrange them in this open spot and plant them together or something like that. If they're getting bit by mosquitoes, that's like that experience goes from, hey, this has been fun to like, hey, that was not fun. Like it could stop anyway. It could stop them from, I mean, that could be a game changer for someone that's, in those transformative time periods. And it goes for everybody, but I never really thought about it like that. But that's super cool. I wish you the best success. What are your hopes for it? Do you want to continue to manufacture this yourself with your 3D printer, or are you hoping that, maybe it's purchased and able to be manufactured on more of a mass scale, or what do you think?
So, so I'll throw in something real quick. First thing is wear EPA approved repellents when you're outside, especially if mosquitoes are biting, especially if you've got kids.
Yeah.
If you want something natural, oil of lemon eucalyptus is just about as good as DEET. It doesn't last quite as long, but its repellent ability is about the same, and it smells a lot better. And then also, if you're concerned about West Nile virus, Eastern equinoencephalitis, those sorts of things, the main vector for those sorts of diseases is Culex quinquefasciatus. I might be saying that wrong. Most biologists call it Culex quinx because the name is pretty long. But it likes highly organic water. So in droughts, the bottom of ditches, when they stop flowing, it loves that. It loves septic tank overflows. It's one like the paradox of mosquitoes is that in wet years, the invasive mosquitoes are everywhere. And in dry years, the native ones that carry West Nile virus are everywhere. And so if you're concerned about that, then try to locate places around your property that hold water in drought and build up a lot of organic matter, and just put a little bit of BTI out there. It doesn't take much, and that will take care of that problem for you.
That's awesome. And
Oh, and your question about scaling up. Yeah, so there's a manufacturer in Mississippi that I want to work with. I just don't have the capital to pay for the molds that it would take to injection mold these things. And then once it's injection molded, the cost could theoretically go down. I haven't done. It would depend on a few factors as to probably like production scale. But my hope is to sell these things for less so that they're more affordable. Also, I want to sell these things to mosquito control companies for much less so that they can then sell them to their customers. And as mosquitoes are becoming resistant to pesticides, all these people they need work. And this is I think a potential to prolong our time in which mosquitoes are controllable by pesticides. Because if there's ever a huge outbreak of some horrible disease, we want to be able to spray pesticides that kill the mosquitoes and save thousands of lives. But if we were just spraying pesticides willy-nilly all the time, we're creating pesticide-resistant mosquitoes, and we're killing a bunch of pollinators. And that just seems like a no-win scenario to me.
100%. All right. Nate, let's talk about spiders. You love spiders, and I'm learning a lot about spiders through you. And in fact, last year, When I got to go out to Osborne Prairie with you and John Keys, you pointed out some spiders, including one that I think is undescribed, a particular crab spider. So just, yeah, you mind talking through your interest in spiders and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the first image you showed was Geolicosa, which is a burrowing wolf spider. They are very cryptic, very habitat specific, very understudied. I have not collected or examined specimens from Mississippi, but several arachnologists have, and it's not quite clear whether they are the same species as some of those Midwestern Missouri type species, or whether they're unique species. More research needs to be done, but they're really neat. That crab spider in the second photo, I now think this is Misumenops inners Walkenire, is the guy who described it. It's a very interesting story. So in 1792, this Civil War veteran named John Abbott drew a bunch of watercolor drawings of spiders. He's the person who pioneered the study of host plant associations in North America. He would find plants, draw the caterpillars that were on them, draw their chrysalises, draw the adult butterfly, and he would put that together as a watercolor and he would sell it to Europe. And that kind of created the foundation for our understanding of host plant interactions in.
Nate, I think we lost you.
Yeah. Did you catch the name of the guy he's talking about?
Yeah, John Abbott.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, John Abbott, yes.
Sorry, Nate, lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see now. My internet connection is unstable. So what was the last thing that you heard? John Abbott?
Yeah, you were just talking about him selling his paintings, his naturalist paintings back to folks in Europe who were interested in that.
Yes. Did I talk about the caterpillar associations?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this guy named Charles Walkenire bought one of these publications and described a bunch of species from it. One of those species is, he called it Thomysis inners. It was later moved to the genus Misumenops inners. And then in 2004, this guy named Pekka Latinen moved almost all the North American Misumenops to Mecaphysa. And in all this process, the original images were lost. This a naturalist user in 2012 found this spider, or this type of spider, in Texas, recognized that it was different from any of the well-known species, and so has been working on describing it for the past like 13 years. It takes a long time. And then I was able to find the original drawing of Misumenops inners from the museum in Paris that was holding it. They were kind enough to send me the image. And I'm pretty confident that this is the same species. It's kind of hard to tell with these crab spiders in the tribe Missumenini, is what it's called. They can change color and pattern to match their surroundings or for other reasons, kind of like chameleons, but in slow motion. So Mecaphysa and Misumenops in particular, they can only change color when they're molting. Other species in this tribe can change color over the course of a few days when they move to a different flower. So it's tricky, and we may never know for sure whether this is Misumenops inners, but I'm pretty sure it is based on specimens that very closely match the type drawing of the species that I found in Georgia on iNaturalist. So it's a great example of how iNaturalist is very helpful for finding new species and trying to figure out the identity of old species that haven't been seen in 200 years.
Yeah, and I read your post on this, and if I'm understanding correctly, the biologist who was describing these based off of drawings and watercolor, he never saw these insects in living, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Is this a journal post on iNaturalist as well?
It is.
Okay, cool. I thought it sounded familiar. So for anybody watching, that's you just heard it, but you may have some links and some more in depth on it. But that's one of the coolest. I mean, I don't know, dude. I would. That's just cool. That's a cool spider.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Every time I see a crab spider now, I think about Nate. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Glad to hear it. Unfortunately, I can't identify most of them. There are like 700 species on a naturalist, 2,000 species described in the literature. Um, Even in North America, it's probably the best studied place in the world for crab spiders. Um, one of the most common genera is Asticus, and about half of the species in the genus Asticus have never been photographed, or at least we have no confirmed photographs of those species. Um, and yeah, it's just the papers that describe them just drew the diagnostic criteria, which are the palps, which are the male um, uh, organs for the male sex organs, and then the epigene or epiginum, which is the female sex organs. And those are more stable than characteristics like color and hairs and shape, which can be used for ID, but they're much less useful. And for the longest time, scientists were not looking at pictures on the internet to identify species. They were looking at specimens under the microscope. And so there was really no reason for many scientists to post pictures or to post drawings of the whole spider when these other more detailed uh, drawings were more useful to them. But that's beginning to change. More and more scientists are posting photos of the species in life alongside their other more technical drawings because they know that people like us are reading their papers and trying to identify spiders that we see both in life and online based on those papers.
That's so cool. You're inspiring me to want to do a spider inspired garden now after.
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, dude. That's awesome.
yeah, okay. So let's get into some INAT observations from Nat. This Nate, I pulled a number of observations and I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. Either of you, please stop me if I'm blazing through any that you want to talk about. But yeah, I feel like 10,000 plus observations. And Harry, you said how many identifications on INAT is 300,000 plus?
Yeah, 365,380 identifications.
Yeah, beast. So
That's unreal.
I started off, Nate, with the Nemostylus. I had to just because there's a great story behind this. You told me that this is a plant that you and your wife saw on your first date together, I believe. Yeah,
it's one of my favorite plants for sure. And this is a population of it. It was a huge population, but they sprayed it right before it bloomed like 3 years in a row. But it's still hanging on. So whenever they stop spraying this roadside, it should come back and bloom. And it was the blue flower in the previous slide for people who don't.
Yeah, that bloom. Yeah, that's super cool. I haven't seen it in person.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So I kind of see, I'm assuming this is like a black belt prairie endemic based on the little obscure dots. Is that right? Or is it showing up in other places too?
Yeah, in Mississippi, black belt prairie. I'm not sure about its range outside of Mississippi.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know that one, but it sure is beautiful.
Yeah, and this giant orchid, I'm also not familiar with it, but you told me it was one of your favorites, so I wanted to include it.
Yes. Yeah, this was an example of so I am not an expert in anything, but I am decently good at noticing when something is unusual. And so John Keys and I were exploring this grassland remnant near Clinton, and I noticed this, and I was like, "Hey, John, you want to come look at it? Look at this." And he walked over, and it was like, "No way," because this was a pretty significant range expansion for this. I think it's an S1 or S2 in Mississippi that John previously, when he was like 15 or something, had found for the first time in 20 years in the state,
Wow.
down south in South Mississippi.
Wow.
Is this like calcareous soil Jackson Prairie, or is this totally different?
This is it's like an kind of like an old field, but with some nicer species in it. It had little blue stem. Uh, it had Andropogon gyrans. I know the genus name has changed. I just haven't figured out how to pronounce it yet. Uh, it had Baptisia alba. Um, just try to think. Most of the things that it had, other than that, were kind of like things that you might expect to find in some random old field. But then we saw this, and that is not something that you'd expect to find in some random old field.
That's so cool.
It's a coastal plain endemic, I think.
Got
Okay.
it.
That's super cool.
This Leucospora, I just like the common name, so I included it just because it's a fun one. I've never seen it.
Yes. hmm and if you
And I think I
like Star
found this
Wars, you
close
might.
to Memphis as well.
Yes, yeah, I think it can. Yeah, I observed it in Memphis, I believe. But if you like Star Wars, you'll like the note that I left under the observation. Hello there.
Yeah.
Um,
I included that in the screenshot on purpose. So.
yes, I love that plant. And what I like to say is that Mississippi State University has this plant, Ole Miss does not.
Nice. Hey, didn't you say you wanted to spray? I remember you saying you wanted to like sprinkle a bunch of seeds around. You made a funny joke about this plant last one of the times we talked, and I'm trying to recall it, but it was about it being
Oh,
on campus, and you wanted to go sprinkle a bunch of it. I can't remember. Do you remember?
I think it was that I wanted to take it to Disney World
That's it. That's it.
and
Yeah,
and
dude.
sprinkle it around the Star Wars exhibit.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to see who would get that because
Yeah.
that
Well,
would
it would be maybe with the amount of people that go to Disney, it might be one person a day, something like that.
right, but they would, and they would get a
Yeah.
huge kick out of it. They were like, well, why is Obi-Wan Kenobi everywhere? That's awesome.
hmm
That's a good one.
This Croton, this one's out at Osborne Prairie. Uh, just a interesting Croton. They interest me to no end, and so yeah, I just wanted to include it. A little bit different than Lindheimeri.
Yeah. And to the botanically uninitiated, you're gonna look at this and say, what? That's not a rare plant. I see that everywhere. Stubweed. This is the rare native counterpart to the common weedy non-native Croton lindheimeri, which is native to like Texas and spread to Mississippi and took over everywhere. But this almost identical plant, Croton capitatus, they actually used to be the same species. They were split. It's native to Mississippi. It's very rare. It's very conservative, which means it only grows in certain areas. It doesn't grow in disturbed areas. Um, and the differences between this plant and that other plant are so subtle. It's like the tips of the leaves are different, and when the seed pods form, they form slightly differently. Um, to the point where there's still some people who think that they're the same species, but I think they're different, and most
Yeah.
botanists do as well.
Cool. Nablus asper.
Yeah, I really want to see that in bloom. I've never seen it in bloom. I really do. It's a cool plant.
Harry and I got to see that one recently for me for the first time recently.
Me
Nice.
too. Yeah, that was cool.
This
Yeah, there was only
Agnes-
one, or from what I remember, this was near Tupelo, but there was only one individual. Andrew has since said that he thinks he had found a couple more nearby, but that was just exciting to see. I love going over to the Black Belt Prairie. It's so different than what we have here, and it's just like a testament to, if you can really dig deep and start painting a picture in your brain and looking along roadsides and going, kind of putting the pieces together, just how diverse the state. And really, I don't like to think in political lines as terms because they're, I see, but just all across, from the river to over there, how many transitions you make from the alluvial plain to the Black Belt Prairie is pretty incredible. But anyway, that was a cool plant.
Agellinus, that was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, I had no idea that was anything special. I just was like, I'm just going to take a picture of everything I see that I don't know. And then I think John Keys probably identified that one because I would have no idea.
That I do that all the time, and am thankful to people like you and Keys and Joel that if I can take a photo of it, and just iNaturalist in general, because then I get it. I'm like, well, now I've got to know everything about it. After you learn, you're like, somebody told me what it is. What? That one's cool. You did that for one. Oh man, it was we'll keep going and I'll look it up and bring it up later. But for a species in a site near Hernando that you identified for me that I had no clue was anything special, but
yeah. And I included this pinus, this longleaf pine. That's pretty awesome to see. That's one I wish I got to see a lot more. So
yeah, it is a really cool plant. That's a tree, by the way. Looks like a grass. That's the tree.
Yeah. This is an anemone. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lovely little. I like to call it wind petal. It's just like a lovely little plant that pops up in spring. It grows great in lawns because it blooms, it's gone, and you can just mow it and it's fine as long as you don't spray it or dig it up or plant something over it.
This Echinacea purpurea.
Yeah, I think that one is it's unclear whether that's wild or cultivated. It's kind of in one of those gray zones. So there's this wildflower field in Ridgeland. They plant a bunch of zinnias in, and basically it's all exotic stuff plus some blanket flower, but everything else is just totally exotic. And they planted it for years. And one year, as I was walking along the edges, I saw a purple coneflower blooming. And there's no purple coneflower blooming anywhere else in the field. And so and also the field before it was turned into that lot, it was a remnant black belt prairie, not black belt, Jackson prairie. There were some plants holding on by their toenails there. It wasn't like a high quality remnant, but there were some plants there. Like I was able to find also things like split-beard bluestem and some other things that you wouldn't expect to come up in a zinnia mix.
Is that over by the mall?
That's over at the Ridgeland exit.
Is it like the mall is on one side of that exit?
Oh, the Renaissance. Yes.
Yeah. The outdoor mall. I went over there. I didn't realize that, man. I saw the zinnias but isn't that ironic? I heard it's funny. Like I heard a similar deal where people with good intentions planted even natives and this was another part of Mississippi and this was referenced by a couple of people from SGI that we're talking to, and they took a remnant and planted native grasses. They like sprayed out the remnant and planted native grasses, not realizing they were like putting back. But same with the zinnias. The zinnias caught my eye, but I didn't realize. I mean, that's a cool plant to find here. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I was excited when I walked through there to see some Cascuda, daughter of mine, taking.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. John Keys taught me about that one, and now it's like something that I didn't notice or I didn't know a lot about, and he pointed it out. He came up for a visit and just informed me more about it, and I thought it was interesting. And then on that Mississippi River trip, all along the banks, I would see these big swaths of Cuscuta just draping over vegetation. And I thought it just, I don't know, that's a cool species.
Yeah. Well, one of my my dream gardens to build for a haunted house is a bunch of Cuscuta, devil's walking stick, carnivorous plants, and probably in raised containers, and just make it a really really scary Halloween themed, a bunch of hemiparasites.
That's super.
What about kudzu? That's pretty scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, pass on that because that would
Yeah.
everything would become.
I'm gonna try to come up with more for that. That's a great. I love
It is a
that
good
idea.
idea.
That's super cool. Maybe some Orangium, anything spiky or that's cool.
Yeah.
This
Anything
is-
that turns like black, like axolflower. That's a
Oh, yeah.
Micardonia acuminata. Oh, and Carex microdonta. I love that. I was just thinking about that plant today, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
why were you thinking about it today of all days?
Well, because I was thinking about ways to make Carex lawns more acceptable to the average person. One of the
Yeah.
things about Carex cherokeensis, which is probably the best lawn Carex, is that it's a clumper. And people don't like to see clumps in their lawn. You see all the time on Facebook, whenever someone has like those little rings of dead grass in their lawn or bare spots, they're posting saying, "What's going on?" Um, and Carex microdonta is, I think it's stoloniferous. I think it sends out runners, whether they're stolons or rhizomes or whatever you want to call them, and it kind of spreads around evenly. So it could fill in the gaps around the Cherokee sedge. And it's such a short sedge, and they're relatively similar in leaf texture that I think that to the average person it would look like a continuous lawn. But gotta test that out.
That's super interesting. I'm not familiar with that one, but it's cool looking.
Yeah, that's about its mature height right there.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, dude. Matt Nielsen, he's got a couple of test plots. Have you seen those, or has he sent pictures of those too? He's got a couple of Carex test plots that look really cool. And
Yeah, he sent some pictures. I also got to see it a few years ago in its infancy.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I'm looking
looking.
forward to seeing the more results.
What's he got in
Good
there?
data.
He's got Cherokeensis and Blanda and another one, and they're all side by side. And I'm not a fan of. I wish I was more interested in it because like my property is it's diverse with a lot of different Carex species, and I think I could play around. And I love Cherokeensis is cool because around here I see it in these like full sun blasted lush terrace sites where it's like super wet and then hydroxeric, then it dries out. So it's like full sun in these, prairie remnants or grassland remnants, I should say. And then also I see it in upland habitats where it's a little shadier and dry, along with the Chasmanthium sessiliflorum. So like it's able to withstand so many conditions. So like I gravitate towards Cherokeensis. Another one I didn't know about that I've been wanting to experiment with is Brevior, which we saw in the DG prairie that Joel has, and he told me about. But something about, I think it's important so that it translates to the normies that want to see a lawn looking thing. But also, like, the more that I look at the natural world, the less interested I am in trying to make it look like lawn. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, no, I just want it to be what it wants to be. Like, I want diversity. I want differing heights. And, Joel and I have talked about that a lot. And I just get, I don't know, but it is important. It's important, to think about that because it could be the thing that turns someone it could be the thing that someone gets interested in and makes a change in their life. Like, yes. Yeah. But,
yeah, there's a ton of great sedges out there. Don't get me started.
yeah.
I love them. I'm really stoked about Carex albicans right now. So it's my new favorite. So
Do you have a favorite sedge,
Seriously,
Nate?
That's hard. It depends on the day. Cherokeensis, for its versatility, I've seen Cherokeensis form a solid mat under cedars.
Hmm.
Like in a cedar, like it's just like a lane of cedars next to a power line right away, and it's just green underneath.
Wow.
Uh, and like, what other plant can do that?
Right.
Um, I'm a fan of Medii because it's got this really nice blue glaucous color. Um, let's see. Socialis is pretty. Albicans is really pretty. Um, I'm trying to think of because I could just go on and name them all, at least all the ones that I know, because I know like a third of the ones that occur in my area. There's so many different ones. Um, Abscondita, I think, is has a lot of potential. It looks so much like Liriope. Um,
Hmm.
and it's more habitat specific. It needs moist, it needs shade. But it looks so much like Liriope that I think most people, if they saw a garden with Liriope as a border versus a garden with Carex abscondita as a border, they wouldn't notice unless they were looking really closely and knew a little bit about plants.
That's cool.
How do you feel about Blanda? Do you think it's
Blanda is
attractive?
good. Blanda, the thing, so uh, I really like it. I like it as a lawn too. I like it as a specimen plant, but at least when I've showed Blanda to other people that are just like not initiated into native plants, they're not the biggest fan of it.
Boring?
Um, I don't know. I think that they just see it as a weed. They've
Yeah.
seen it so many places as a weed that it's instinctively think weed.
Yeah.
Um,
I love Cherokeeensis. I don't know. They're just cool. And Keys is so good at identifying because we have, like I said, I have a pretty carex rich property. And
mhm.
and then there's the gosh, I'm gonna say it wrong. Ricno. There's a couple other genus that Ricno, can you finish that?
Rhynchospora?
Yes, Rhynchospora.
Yes.
And then of course Cypress,
Yeah.
like that when you start getting into those open, like these grassland remnants, or even just open enough areas to be home to like a species rich places where you find those.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by, and Juncus, like
Juncus
Juncus
and
interior, like you're finding all these things, and I'm like, wow, like am I, I just think they're all so interesting. Graminoids. I wish I would have made that talk that he did on graminoids because
yeah.
he's got such a good. I mean, and I love how you're relating it to the landscape because that's a lot of people's entry point into this. But he's had to help me with a lot of identification with graminoids in general. But
Yeah.
um,
And I will say one thing that has been on my mind for years about sedges. So sedges are relatively low growing. They're evergreen. Deer don't like them. We should plant them along roadsides instead of planting clover, right?
oh yeah,
Which just attracts deer and mowing it to keep it short so that it's got this constant flush of new growth that deer love.
yeah,
I mean, it's great for visibility, but visibility doesn't matter if the deer is standing right in front of you and you're going 65 miles per hour in night. Um, but Cherokee sedge, you'd mow it once or twice a year to keep weeds from growing up trees, and it would stay low. You'd have visibility, and deer wouldn't be coming to munch on it.
it's a great point. It's good safety. You're absolutely right. I didn't think about it. I'm always thinking about it in terms of landscaping, but that's awesome. Ah,
Here's a Sylphium.
Another one that I don't know anything about, John Key has probably identified it.
But it looks like it's pretty specific to your black belt sites.
Yeah,
yeah.
number of selfie are.
Um, Jared Gorell pointed that one out because we were trying to. I was sitting with him while he was doing one of those plots, those vegetation plots for SGI, and he's looking, and that's so impressive to watch them do that. In this little square, how much diversity's in there. But I'm really familiar with Integrifolium because that's without undoubtedly the dominant Silphium that we have over here in our neck of the woods.
Yep.
It seems as soon as you go from all the Lus soil or the Lurs soil or the
I
Los.
say Lois,
Yeah,
so you're
Lois,
you're
Lus.
you're you're more sophisticated than I am already.
Well, no, not at all. But it's just my home, so I love that dirt. So when you get out of it into the Northern Hilly Gulf coastal plain, which Robin referred to as I have a note for it around here somewhere, but basically a plateau. As she referred to that ecoregion as something I hadn't heard before. But as it makes that transition into the basically the orange soils, I see it turn to asteriscus. And then we were looking at asteriscus, and he was like, "This is he was calling it integrifolium," and I was like, "Man, I don't know." And then he a light I could see a light bulb go off, and he was like, "Ah, we're in the black belt. It's convertifolium." And then and I didn't know, all I knew was that I didn't think it was integrifolium just based on what I was looking at. But I think that it's so cool that the black belt has so many endemics and so like plants named after the region. Like it's a cool region. But like the Rudbeckia tyrannigrae,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
interesting
new plant for
too.
sure. And
Yeah,
I think Brady Dunaway is propagating that now.
oh,
Oh, cool.
that's so cool.
Yeah, this is another Carex. This is the one Nate mentioned previously, the meaty.
And that was a kind of depauperate state. And once you put it in a nice landscape bed, it really does well.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I love the way that those hairs look on those leaves. It's just so fuzzy.
Yeah, those leaves are crazy on this Symbiotrichum. That's why I wanted to include it. But yeah, that's a cool find for sure.
And that's in the same site as, and like that one too, same site as the Nemostylus, the blue flowers that we saw at first. Yeah, that's a pretty cool plant. It's a hemiparasite, depends on other plants for, I think it's water. It draws water from them and has beautiful orange flowers that I don't think I've gotten to see in person, at least not for Castelligia coccinea. I might be saying the name wrong. I think I got to see some of those in bloom when we were on our honeymoon in Zion. There were some blooming along trails. It's a fantastic plant. I don't get why we didn't just like sow a bunch of this around roadsides because it's
beautiful.
a really cool plant. I mean, it is a little bit hard to get established from seed, but it's worth it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this the same one? I'm unsure whether or not it was planted, but are there observations of this like south of Strawberry Plains?
Yeah, potentially those are planted, I think.
I think so too. And this one is yeah, that's just I've always wanted to see it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Harry, because that's one of those observations that I saw. Again, Nate commenting on iNaturalist, like, do you think this was possibly cultivated?
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking about that. Like, whoa, maybe this plant is not actually from this place originally. So,
yeah, that's an interesting area. And it's like basically Strawberry Plains, and there's a small town in Marshall County near Strawberry Plains where there's a series of private property owners that are all managing these, hundreds of acres for native habitat. And, they're burning, being great stewards of their land. And it's also an extremely rich, diverse area. But there's some of those areas are planted, including Strawberry Plains. So you've got, so it gets a little bit like there's 100% a ton of really interesting native grassland species. And that's like basically where the Lurs, Lus, Los plains meet the Northern Hilly Gulf coastal plain. But it can be confusing because, did they jump out of a habitat planting, or are they naturally occurring? And I don't know. Place is very special to me, but interesting stuff because they're hard to find over here. I love the anyway, finding those kind of lesser known grassland sites in Mississippi. But
This is a cool plant. A friend of mine, Philip Barlow, has done a pollinator study on this plant. I can't remember what all the results were. I think there's a couple types of bee and then ants and weevils that are really commonly found in association with this. And I think of those, only some types of bee are actually good at pollinating it. But this is one of the best smelling orchids that I've ever smelled. Very fragrant. And
that's,
unlike most spiranthes that bloom in spring, it blooms in fall.
Yeah, yeah. And
I
it
think we
looks
saw this for the first time recently too.
yeah, and it looks like Cynthia trichomericoides to the left of it there. I don't know if that's
Oh, yeah, quite possibly. I've actually thought that I'd never seen that species in the wild before. Maybe I just walked right past it.
That's so
and
cool.
here it is.
Oh, I thought I'd never seen that in the wild, and here I am with an observation of it.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if that's from that's a different site, maybe. I don't know, but
no, it's the same site.
yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, I love this plant so much. So yeah.
Yeah, it is a cool plant. Oh yeah, Scutellaria.
Wow.
That is a
I
delicate.
think that would make a pretty good container plant.
Yeah. I don't know that one. That's
Great,
super
that's
cool.
a good idea. Have you put it in a container?
I have not. I've not been able to propagate it. I got seeds, but I wasn't able to get them to grow.
Yeah.
I'm not good at growing plants from seed because I basically just put them out unlabeled in fall and hope that I can identify them in spring.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. Seneca, this milkwort is one I'm unfamiliar with. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very common in kind of a Jackson Prairie region of Alabama, that little strip there, and then also there's some spots like in Southwest Mississippi where it's common. Um, it's cool.
Oh, is there a strip of Jackson Prairie that extends into Alabama?
Yeah, just a very little bit.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's an area I need to explore. I remember you telling me a pretty cool remnant site that I'd love to check out one day. I drove through a little bit of it last year on that Lauren and I did a Mississippi road trip and kind of, just checking out cool, basically antique stores and roadsides and like get out and look at plants. But it was like the things we both love. But
Yeah.
that's such an interesting region to me that I don't know about that I want to learn more about. That's a beautiful plant right there too.
Yeah, and this
Yeah, it
shot is
looks like little
beautiful.
green fireworks.
That's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
I haven't seen this plant in person, but and I haven't thought a lot about it. But when I saw this photo, I was just blown away, and so I had to include it. It's just so beautiful.
And this is a site that's very easily accessible. It's by the Ridgeland Natchez Trace Visitor Center. Um, I think that this is a remnant Jackson Prairie that was overseeded with plants, probably seeds from Louisiana. The liatris there is Liatris pycnostachya var which is more of a Southwest Mississippi and Louisiana type of plant.
Hmm.
There are Natchez Trace records from the probably early 2000s, maybe late 90s that labeled this section as Jackson Prairie or as Prairie. I think actually they might have called it Black Belt Prairie. And it's like the only spot on the Natchez Trace that they call this particular ecosystem. But I've heard that it was likely overseeded.
Hmm. That
But I mean, it makes it really, really pretty. So
that's awesome.
there's pros and cons to that. One of the pros is that hopefully there'll be too much outrage at the destruction of this property or this area for them to even consider destroying it. That's because a lot of people drive past it every day for work, and I know a lot of people on Facebook are aware of it and love it. Every time I've gone out there, like at one time I met a photographer who was going out there because every year he goes out there to photograph swallowtails. I've met other people out there too.
Wow. I've been looking for that milkweed up here, and I haven't had luck, but John told me to look out for it. See Viridiflora. The only time I've seen that one has been down around Jackson Prairie. I think I saw on a roadside by chance, but it caught my eye. And I mean, it's just pretty stunning.
Yeah,
Bone spurs is fun. Poinsettia related plant.
yeah, got that one, and also this false flowering spurge, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen this one yet, but I would like to. It's also very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate, you may know better than I do, but it seems like on this one, the nectaries will eventually turn very reddish from that green color. Do you know?
I do not. I gave up on euphorbia.
Got
it. It's too crazy of a genus for me to really uh, bother trying to understand.
Got it. Well, it's a beautiful plant.
Yes, it is.
Another weird Symphotrichum that I was previously unaware of. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, scale-like leaves, like a little juniper.
Wow.
Symphotrichum patens. This is another black belt one, I think. Is that right, Nate?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, these images are demonstrating the difference in quality between me and you, Joel, with your awesome photography skills.
Just click the button.
Well, I do that too, and it's not working out.
Symphotrichum shorty, I had to include this one. I love this one. I garden with it, and yeah, it's so beautiful. It's super cool. You've gotten to see that in the wild.
Yeah, I was stoked to see that. Oh yeah, and this is John obviously identified this because who else would be able to look at that and identify it to species?
Yeah.
This one was out in Osborne, and he pointed it out, and that really got me thinking. Okay, I really need to start paying attention to the small things a little bit more closely. So shout out John Keys for this one. Another Spiralis, the Piney Woods drop seed. That's pretty.
That's cool.
And the white stuff in the background is Rhynchospora colorata, which is
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think like look at like if I had taken a focused picture of that, you know, that would look like a really nice lawn. I think the combination there is Rhynchospora colorata, which is the bright white, and those flowers last for a long time. The bracts, and then the kind of almost fuzzy green underneath it. It's very fine textured. Is Rhynchospora thorny, which gets to a mature height of like that. It's like like instant golf green level grass that's evergreen, handles clay wet soils in full sun. I haven't been able to propagate it though yet. I have some growing. I think I misplaced it in a pot though. Silly me.
Yeah. What is what's the mature height on that?
On Rhynchospora thorny or on Rhynchospora colorata?
Or both? What are we
So
looking?
Mosquito thorny, I've watched it over the course of a year, and it's like that is the mature height.
Okay. Okay.
It's like an inch and a half, if that. And it's a clumper. And then Rhynchospora colorata is usually it maxes out about 1.5 feet in height.
Okay. Nice. Helianthus radula. I saw this one of this observation that you took, and I was stoked. I love this plant. It doesn't grow anywhere near us, but I want to garden with it. I just love it so much. So
yeah, it's a sunflower that doesn't have any ray flowers, so it just looks like a seed head, but it's actually a flower that attracts a good number of pollinators.
yeah.
I don't think I've gotten to see it in bloom before, but I think that's another good Halloween one because it's kind of like black and edgy. And you know, that's a very Halloween flower. It blooms around Halloween and it doesn't bother to put out petals.
It looks like you observed this one last year. What else was growing around that? Is that a fairly dry site or what's going on?
I am not so yeah, that's a really dry site. And I think that was probably also growing out of a road bank.
Oh, okay. You if I'm not mistaken, you know a lot about solidagos, and so I included a couple of those for fun. Solidago mexicana, I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's a cool one. And I think I took that photo outside of the church where my older sister was getting married, my older adopted sister.
Nice.
I think I could be misremembering that. I've been to that church a number of times. But yeah, that's a cool goldenrod. You notice the bloom time on that is March. Um, it's down on the coast, this particular goldenrod, it will bloom pretty much anytime the conditions are favorable. So fall, and then often it will rebloom in winter.
Wow, that's cool.
Solidago nimeralis. I just thought that was a pretty shot of it. Love that
One of the prettiest goldenrods out there, I think.
one.
And very well behaved.
Mhm. Yeah, that should be used more. And it's like every time I see it, there's always cool stuff with it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I like it a lot. That's a good one too.
It is.
Anthurium tenarium, split-bearded blue stem, beautiful grass. Had to include it.
Yes. That's an interesting site too. If you get back to that, that's where the Army Corps dredged a bunch of sand from, I think it's the Tin Tom. And all sorts of interesting plants have taken advantage of that. One of them is Polygonella americana, which otherwise I think it's the only site in Mississippi for this plant. It's believed to actually be native to Mississippi. It probably had a wider distribution within Mississippi and then got destroyed. Um, but it has these like rosemary-like leaves, and then these white flowers that are followed with buckwheat-like seeds. And it's a really interesting combination that I think is very landscape worthy, especially in areas that are dry as a doornail and nothing's gonna grow.
I think that one's in some of those Arkansas sites, Joel. Because Nate,
Oh,
you told me about that over the phone. One of the times after we talked, and I remember looking at the observation, and it's really interesting. Like, I don't know, it reminds me, it looks like a super xeric plant, like I don't know. I thought it was cool. I'd never seen it before, but isn't that, do you remember that conversation? That's the
I
same.
do remember that conversation. That was a fun phone conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And that is the one you're talking about, right? There were other cool things in that site too, right?
Yeah, well, let me think. So there was the Anathyrum
Yeah,
tenarium, or Andropogon used to be.
yeah.
Um, there were some Spiranthes. There was Azolla. That's not too uncommon though. I'm trying to think. Uh, I'm blanking on what else was
Yeah,
cool
either
that was
way, that's
there.
super. It's interesting. It's weird how sometimes disturbance, because there's an area where there's a gravel pit in Hernando. Same deal. It's like you almost like the disturbance from them mining gravel, you know, brought a lot of things out that weren't there, or that weren't, that had been buried or grown up into, it was like sweet gum, and no, you wouldn't have thought of all these cool things being there. And they mined the area for gravel, and now we're seeing all these crazy natives coming back. But
Yeah, yeah. Disturbance is in moderation
yeah,
is great, and also the other thing is, you know, it's one thing to like dredge one section of the river, make a lot of sand, make a new habitat. But if you turn everything into sand,
right.
then that's a problem. Just
Yeah,
like it's one thing to put down some asphalt and make a driveway, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi starts growing because it wouldn't really be able to compete otherwise without that open area. And
mhm.
it's another thing to turn everything into concrete.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
there's a healthy medium.
You're absolutely right.
this is that
Yes, that's
liatris you're
the
talking about.
liatris that was in that picture behind the Asclepius. And that picture kind of sums up, one of the differences between the botanically initiated and the botanically uninitiated is most people seeing that picture would think, oh, look at all the pretty purple flowers. we were like, oh, look at the pretty green flower. Um, yeah, this is a picture of the purple flower. I remember on honeymoon, I took a picture of a beautiful sedge with a shooting star in the background, and my wife gave me some flack for it because I had the picture focused on the sedge fruits, even though there's this beautiful pink and white and yellow flower behind it that was out of focus.
So funny. I love it.
Joel, I think have I seen some pictures of you or that you have taken with the sedge in the foreground and the flowers kind of doing their own thing
Yeah.
in the background.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
This was a really cool grass. I've not seen it before.
I hadn't either. Yeah, it was just right outside my place of work. They've got some retention ponds, and that was growing up around it. I was like, that's interesting. Took a picture,
Yeah.
and either a naturalist or someone else identified it as that. It's a cool plant. Glandularia by Pinnatifida. It's growing out of Joe McGowan's driveway.
Oh, is
So
it?
that's an example of where you can have a driveway that has awesome plants. It just depends on material selection and how much of it you make impermeable.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is a cool plant.
Yes.
Zizia aria. I haven't seen it. I've seen it, but not in bloom in the wild. And so I loved your photo and wanted to include that one.
It's a fun plant.
Looks like a pretty sandy site right there.
Yes. Yeah, it's right on a riverbank. Javon Hill told me about that site. Um, it's Zizia and Phlox, the varicata that grow there together. I think there's a
Harry,
little bit of Phlox in the background there.
Harry, have you seen that
Um,
one in bloom at the Sand Baron?
Um, it wasn't Aria, it was Heartleaf.
Okay, got it.
Zizia. I have this one in my landscape from a local site that Camp Creek collected from, but it's Aptera.
Okay.
It's a different one. But we may have determined, I don't know if we determined that was it or not. Alan, we'll have to ask Alan, but that's I love it. Good host plant too.
yeah.
It's a cool Aristida. I wanted to include it.
Yeah, I love Aristida.
Mm-hmm. Southern Rattlesnake Master. That was a pretty cool find.
It's a shorter version of the more northern Yuccifolium, var Yuccifolium.
John
And
named that one, right?
yes, yeah, well, I don't think he named it so much as resurrected a name.
Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
But still, he published and brought this entity back to life.
That's awesome.
Or maybe he named it, I'm not sure.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Nate, have you seen this one blooming?
I'm not, well, I think I've seen it blooming. Yeah, it's got these very nice blue flowers and usually fairly dense clusters.
Do you know, do you have a sense of if it kind of stays upright like that?
Yeah,
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 cool.
it's great landscape plant. It just needs pretty wet soil.
Yeah. And then Orangium Yuccifolium Rattlesnake Master. You know, I included this one primarily because this is at Osborne and Harry. This was last year. You were supposed to be out there with us, but we went out and surrounding that, this Orangium is Bouteloua curtipendula, side oaks grandma, which blew me away that grass is out there.
Huh.
I mean, there's so much biodiversity at Osborne Prairie to begin with, but to see that grass, I don't know.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah, that was yeah, I think that you saw that, Joel. I think I ought to walk right past that.
Um, is that a site, Nate, that you frequent? Are you out there regularly?
Probably once a year.
Once a year?
Awesome.
We've got to go back down there sometime.
I know. I'm still kicking myself that I missed that. I would absolutely love to. I was looking forward to it all year. And then, but I hope we can do more. I need to come. Starkville's not too bad. And we've got two totally different things going on, but I'd be more than happy to go check it out sometime.
Fun.
Oh, that's
Still, yeah, man, this plant is so beautiful.
I know. And I've tried to grow from seeds and I just haven't been able to. It says online that it's pretty easy to grow, but I just have not had success.
Yeah, I put them in the ground and cross my fingers, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna fool with putting these in pots. I'm just gonna stick these in the ground and let's see. So yeah.
Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah. And you can kind of see it's not quite the Jackson Prairie, but you can see the distribution map of that plant. It matches the Jackson Prairie decently well. It's just like a little bit underneath it. So maybe, there are these transitional ecosystems. So maybe it's part of one of those types of things.
Sarracenia, that's really cool. I haven't.
Yeah, that was a site where they changed the hydrology due to maintenance on something. And so this, Sarracenia normally grows in wet areas, but it became a very dry area very suddenly. But it was still trying its best.
It's wild.
And this is Drosso.
That was on the same site. Yeah. Another Halloween plant.
Yeah.
Carnivore.
Yeah. That'd be a good one.
Oh yes, that's right near our apartment. I look forward to seeing that bloom every year. New Jersey tea. And Joel, you've got some great examples of that in landscape you've done, paired with Asclepias tuberosa. Really nice combination.
Yeah, I love that photo, Joel. I would orange and white's cool. That's like a stunning. You got a couple of stunning photos from that time of year.
Amsonia rigida is I'm growing some of that. It is such a cool plant. Bumblebees and really carpenter bees love it. That's not a way to sell a plant to someone. Plant this and the carpenter bees will come. But it's a selling point for me.
Heck yeah.
I included this eupatorium. I just thought it was it's a unique one.
Yeah, eupatoriums are above my pay grade to identify.
Monarda punctata. It's a beautiful plant.
It is.
This is a cool verbena. I haven't seen it. Big blue stem.
Love it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite grasses. I say that about a lot of grasses there. And compass plant is one of my favorite, composites. I love the fact that the leaves tend to point north and south.
Yeah, iconic.
It really is.
Nice.
With my patented water bottle.
Yeah.
That's a good photo of Solidago in the next one.
Pretty sure you had a spider in that water bottle.
Oh yeah, probably. That makes more sense.
Nice.
I just included this one. I just love that habitat shot. It's just you get a sense of what the black belt prairies look like.
Yeah, nice and short. At least over these thin soils.
Yeah,
and that's a photo from John Key's family property in Brookhaven. First time seeing the checker spot butterfly. Oh, no, that's not a checker spot. What is that? I can't remember. Well, must not have been that significant if I can't remember the name of the butterfly. But cool. I do love that picture.
Me too.
Harry, that's all I've got right now.
Oh, dude, that was excellent.
Thank you.
Nate, I know we've been on for a while, so we'll wrap this up. But dude, thank you so much, man. And that, I mean, such great observations and your contributions to, I'm basically all Mississippians, well, all people. I mean, it sounds like mosquito trap. You know, you're super active on Native Plant Society, Mississippi Native Gardening, getting people interested in this. You know, you definitely made an impact on the way I see things just from interacting with me on starting out interacting with me on iNaturalist. And now I consider you a friend. Just we've had so many great conversations. So thanks for doing this. And I think the work that you're doing is great, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you likewise. Definitely consider y'all friends too. I look forward to meeting y'all back out in the field, hopefully before too long.
Yeah, come up here anytime.
Yeah, please. Joel, any final
this
thoughts?
is really fun.
Yeah, no, Nate, thanks so much for your time. It's not lost on me how much of your night we took away from your wife. So,
well, I'll let her know that you apologized for stealing me away.
And Nate, any last things, man, before we wrap up?
No, that's all I have. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all basically were saying so many nice things about me. If I had come more prepared with photos of y'all's photos, then I could have had my own PowerPoint with all the cool things y'all have done.
Yeah, Joel, thanks for putting that together. As always, Joel does a great job. He's gone through and putting this together, have some cool material for us to talk about. And now there is a Mississippi Native Plant Society. For those that are watching and have made it all the way through, they've really got to be into this stuff. So that's in April, right? There should be like an annual meeting in April.
Yes, I think so. Okay. There's definitely a spring meeting. I can't remember the month right now.
Yeah.
I'm not part of that Illuminati group.
It's all good. I'm just be on the lookout because I know you're involved, and if you know, and maybe you'll be there, and anybody that's more interested in diving into this stuff. There's also a plant propagation workshop. I missed the one last Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah, last Saturday I've been working. I'm going to try to go to the one at Clinton Nature Community Center this Saturday. Awesome. But I think that's really cool that that's happening. I know you were a part of the last one in Starkville, so for anybody watching, basically Mississippi Native Plant Society group, iNaturalist, I'm just kind of pushing any viewers into that. And Nate, you're a huge part of that and very, very helpful and active in those groups. So thanks. Well, cool.
I hope y'all have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks everybody for watching. Yeah. Y'all have a good one.